We're live. We're
Good
there.
afternoon or evening, as the case may be. I'm Luke Gygax, president of Gygax. Thank you for joining me at Luke's Lounge. I am here with my friend Rob Howell, as well as several folks from the Gygax Society, our Patreon. We're here just to chat about what's going on. So first off, let me say happy holidays to everybody. Hope you had Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Kwanzaa, I think, is still ongoing. I think it's multiple days. So hopefully everyone's doing well there. And looking forward to 2024. I know I'm trying to catch up on all the end of the year work here at Gygax, as you know. But that now is not the time for talking about that. Now is the time for enjoying a delicious adult beverage or beverage of your choice. I am using my Gygax beer glass right here with a cool Githyanki on there, designed by none other than my partner in crime, Matt Everhart, aka Casey Rift. Delicious hazy IPA in there. But man, we spent a lot in store in 2023. It feels like we really just got our momentum going. Our first issue of G20 magazine came out, so that should be in your email if you haven't got it yet. And issue number 2. We're working on that, and in fact, I think it's essentially done, other than just really probably a proofread, and that's about it. One of the things that we're going to be including in G20 is descriptions of a little bit more about Okrim, right? Because that setting primer is a real bear. It's easy, I find anyway, it's pretty easy to run a campaign or that sort of thing when you've got all the information in your head. But trying to disseminate that into a written format that is understandable and coherent for a wide group of people who've never spoken to you, and you can't just be like, no, this is what it means. That's a lot of work, and that's a skill set. And so I had to call in some help, and very fortunately, I know a few people who are pretty darn talented authors, and one of the gentlemen that I met by playing D&D, how else do you meet people, right? Is Rob Howell himself. So he's joined me here. And the first thing when Rob and I were talking, he's like, I really love fleshing out pantheons. He's like, I think just kind of writing about those and all the accoutrements that go with it, the societies and rituals and that sort of stuff. He's like, I would love to take a swing at it. And he whipped up a sample for me. I believe it was Bushira, right, that you did, Rob?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, because he played a paladin of Bushira in one of my games, and sure enough, I read through and I said, "Wow, this is great! Like, yeah, this is you hit the nail on the head." So I said, "Great, here you go, start writing," and he's done a really nice job. So we want to start showcasing some of that in G20 as well as the adventures. So let's see, we had was it Ian writing the first couple parts of the adventures? Is that right, Matt? Yep. And then we got right. Zach. Yep. Then we got Zach lined up for number 3, yeah?
Yeah, and Zach Bauer's writing issue number 3. Number 2's already done. Zach's actually online with us right now.
What? Oh, see, that's what happens when people don't put their real names on things. I can't tell who you are.
So
I have my real name on here. Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, I should have known that. How could I should have guessed that. So all the bad stuff I was going to say about Zach, we'll scrub that. We'll stick to the good stuff. No, but he actually, Zach, good to have you on. And he actually helped me kind of round out a really fun adventure that I've been doing at shows called Rogue's Gambit, which is a much more lighthearted take of a one-shot. Yeah. Had a lot of fun doing that. So that should be coming forth here in 2024. We'll probably kickstart that maybe with a few other things. But I've rambled on for a little bit here. I'd like to hand the baton over to Rob here and let you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your background and what you got going on as an author, and then talk a little bit about developing the Pantheon and kind of some of the exciting stuff that you came up with.
Well, awesome. First of all, I want to thank Luke and Matt for giving me the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun to work in this world. I'm really excited about the things that we're doing. As he said, I'm an author. This is my first book, Lake Most Deep, and it decided it wanted. I thought I was writing epic fantasy, and it decided it wanted to be a murder mystery private eye novel with swords and sorcery, and sometimes the characters do what they want to do and not what you want them to do, which turns out to be an interesting aspect of the job. I am a medieval historian by training and decided the academic world was not a great place for me. Along the way, I've done a variety of things, been an IT guy. I've done medieval reenactment. Oh, and I've been a soda jerk. I've literally made over 100,000 milkshakes in my life. So there you go. Um, and I got interested in this project because we briefly mentioned it earlier. I got a chance to play in a D&D session at 20 bucks to 50K, which if you're a writer or want to be a writer, I can't suggest it enough. It's tad on the expensive side, but you really get a ton of great information there. And last year, and he did it again this year, Luke was offering for charity some D&D games, and I was like, well, this is awesome. I've been playing D&D since 1980. This was a chance for me. Let's get this off the bucket list. And so we played, and he's as you mentioned, I played a paladin of Bashira, and he had some small information about what Bashira was. She was a sun goddess, and a little bit more than that. And I'm like, I want more. I want more of all this stuff. And I go through and I start making decisions, and I get into an epic rumble with another player named Brian, which we chatted about earlier too. It was a blast. We had a hoot. But at the end of it all, I went, man, this is an interesting goddess. And so is Azim, who he also got mentioned in there. And there were some other hints at other deities. And I'm like, there's some neat stuff in here. I want to see more of it. And part of the reason for that is because this is sort of my ideal. If any of you remember these, I've got all three of them still from Forgotten Realms, all of the fantastic stuff they put into these. And they had so much detail about what they wore and rituals and all sorts of neat stuff that if you wanted to follow one of those gods like Lathander or Torm or something like that, that you really could role play those as clerics and paladins. And to be honest, I actually really love role playing clerics and paladins. People are like, "Aren't you're just the healer?" Oh, but you're so much more. You get to be this great character with all of these neat things that you can inject into the game. Like, for example, what happened, with me and the Centaur Barbarian. And so I want that sort of thing as a cleric and as a paladin. So I went to him and asked him if I could do this for him, as he mentioned, and I used this again, sort of as my first initial template. I wanted to include such things like the kinds of things they wore. Most gods and goddesses in mythology have some sort of epithets around them, and he already provided some of those in the primer, but I expanded on that. Um, he had a number of symbols. I expanded on the symbols by actually blazoning them in heraldese. I've done medieval reenactment, as I mentioned, and so I went ahead and used my experience as a herald so that you can actually, if you hand these to a herald, you can actually get them drawn even if you never see an image for it. I expect there will be plenty of art around these guys, but I wanted to include that too. Um, I included in it. He had some listings of kind of the things that the gods were about. I wanted to make sure the dogma, though, that each faith's dogma had a one-line TLDR phrase. So each one of them has one of those. Like for Bushira, the sun brings truth and hope. And if you know that one phrase, you can role play a Bushiran cleric pretty darn well. At least that's my thought on that. But then I expanded out a little bit. And then we have the symbols that I mentioned before. Then I added ceremonies because ceremonies are fun. What's a religion without ceremonies? So, like for example, Bushira also talks about writing and knowledge and keeping the light of learning alive. So one of the ceremonies I created is the time of inscription, which is during the summer festival. The clerics of Bashira inscribe the 7 most important pieces of wisdom they gained the previous year into each temple's tome of knowledge, so that routinely these clerics are putting in new things that they have learned. And sometimes some of these I anticipate would be whatever the player character wants to say, but they might be factoids of cool things that happened or things that they learned philosophically or technological, whatever. That's up to the character's role playing. So all sorts of ceremonies that can be done along the way, because I think they're fun to role play. And then neat places. One of the places I created, each one of the gods has several orders of religious orders, and I'll get to that in a moment. But each one of those religious orders is in some sort of place, and one of my favorite ones that I created for him was the Priory of Queens, and the queens in this one refers to bees. This particular monastic order has their own apiary, and they grow flowers and make mead and candles and all sorts of things out of the bees. And that mead is special mead, and that the flowers and the candles and all of that stuff ends up becoming special magic items for that particular order. In this case, um, uh, I created what I called a brilliance, which was a specialized candle just for clerics of Bashira. And many of my magic items are much along these lines. They're often kind of small but useful. In this particular case, a brilliance, if a cleric of Bashira uses one while they're preparing spells, they get a +1 damage to any radiant per effective level of the spell, to any radiant damage that they do through the day. So that's a nice little bonus. Plus, they get also a +1 to healing spells. So basically, boosts in a small way their healing and their damage to undead, which I think is appropriate for Bashira. So it's that sort of thing, but it's just a candle. So there's a neat thing there out of this particular priory's apiary. Fun little things. So all of them have stuff like that. Every one of the deities has, well, every one of the major deities has somewhere, on average, 3 extra new spells to each one of them, 3 monastic or itinerant or militant orders attached to it, a variety of locations, and several magic items each as well, so that there is enough that you can make a Bushiran cleric have a slightly different spell list, have some certain magic items, and have some connections politically or however the DM wants to play it with these organizations. And not all of these organizations are entirely fulfilling the order of their deity. um, the primer that Luke gave me had a ton of amazing things in it, like the criminal organizations and some of the other Kickstarter stuff that people have done. And I've tried to interweave those in there. And since there's all these other deities, sometimes there's jealousy among the deities. Even sort of the benevolent deities have jealousies and conflicts among each other. So I built a bunch of those in there, and there's tons more. I'm just scratching the surface, and of course that's part of the DM's option, is to go do a whole heck of a lot more, but it's there. And then along with that, I created a set of things for each priest. So I created the leading priest, the high priest. In the case of the Bushirans, their high priest is called the Sunray, which I will admit to a little bit of Canadian preference here because of Canadian military preference, and Luke, I think, is getting it here. In Canadian military parlance, Sunray has been the call sign of the leader of a unit, and so I was a little sly on that. I've got some Canadian background in my past. But then I list some of the vestments that they wear for ceremonial occasions, some of their day-to-day activities, what kind of weapons they use. I thought about going with the favored weapon, which is so common, but I decided to do this as a range of weapons because every cleric is going to have a little bit of a different preference. But for example, in the case of Bushira is depicted as having a longsword and having a spear. So while they can have all the traditional cleric weapons, they can also have those weapons as well. And that's kind of how I did it for most of the clerics along the way, something along those lines.
Yeah, and I think I'm seeing a lot of comments in Twitch, which is really nice. Just basically saying this is a sort of detail people feel like they haven't gotten in some recent materials, and it really makes the idea of playing a cleric more appealing when they have, and I would say a paladin obviously as well, when they have this kind of foundation to like kickstart their imagination, right? Because it's not like you're coloring in. You're not coloring a full picture for them, but you're definitely setting some outlines and giving people jumping off points, which I think is the key. And I know 2E was 1E was pretty light on stuff. If you look like the Great Hawk Gazetteer and stuff, it was a little more. Here's kind of what the militaristic, what they can do militaristically. Here's a little bit about their geography and trade, and here's their leader. In a tiny bit of history in there, right? So a bit. And I think 2E, the Forgotten Realms, they fleshed out more of the interrelations of organizations a bit more, and less on maybe number of troops and armies, so a little bit less wargamery in that side. But there was still a lot left for you to fill in, and I think that's important. We don't want to give you everything, but we want to arm you with enough for you to jump off and have a nice, have something to work with, so it's cohesive, but you get to still customize it. And I think that's the philosophy that we're going forward with here. And I just wanted to.
That's exactly what I was aiming for. I mean, I've DM'd a lot over the last 40 years, and I tend to be fairly improvisational in my DMing. I want players to go ahead and do what they try to do, and then I have basic sort of philosophical things along the way. So, for example, if I know what a bad guy has for philosophy, or the kinds of monsters that particular organization is using, or bad guys that that's using, then if I need to create a particular encounter or fight or subterfuge or intrigue or whatever, I have sort of the ability to do that on the spot because I already have some idea of what they're thinking. And so I wanted to create some of those ideas. Again, DMs are supposed to take this and run with it. And I hope along the way that after this gets out and people start running with these deities and start doing cool things, I can't wait to hear some of the stories about the cool things that other people running the clerics and the paladins and the DMs do to these characters or do to these deities, because that's part of the fun for me. Like, I can't wait for that first moment when I hear someone tell their story and I'll go, wow, I'm not smart. I wasn't smart enough to think about that. That's awesome. I look forward to that moment. So make sure you're telling Luke and Matt all the cool things that you're doing with these. And I'm sorry, I don't see
real quick. Hold on 1 second. So we got about. I started the giveaway for the GM screen. If you are currently the holder of a lounge ticket, you're able to go over to Luke's Lounge there in Discord and register. So we have about 8 minutes left on that before the giveaway closes. Thanks.
That's right. It's a pretty nice little DM screen too. So I think is it a unique or is it one of a limited number?
Oh, this one's unique. Yep. Unique. I made it yesterday.
All right. Never to be seen again. It's a unique one only, still in the shrink. No, sorry. That was an old auction thing.
With the laser. I burned it away, but yeah.
Okay, good. So you can seal back in. There's I mean, obviously we're just scratching the surface on with deities. There's all the political inter relationships to get going. Obviously, I just have I've only been talking about the central coast part of the Sea of Najur and the city of Shintufi. There's the Blighted Lands, but what's on the other side of the Blighted Lands? What's the north and south? What does the world map look like? All those things, honestly, won't be fleshed out in that primer. It'll be just a region, if we're being honest here, kind of like the Flyness part of Greyhawk, but they'll be more hinted at. Well, I was gonna get a bit melancholy here. When I was in Sweden over Thanksgiving, I was visiting a friend of mine, Patrick Beimer, and we were collaborating on making a portion of the North based on his setting that he had since 1984, and I ran for his group. What I didn't know is that Patrick's cancer was a bit more further along than we knew, and he passed away 2 days ago. So I think I'll dedicate that part of the world to him. And yeah, cheers to Patrick, great guy. But I was able to run his last game of D&D for him, so that was a true honor. And yeah, it just really? That's sorry for a bit of real worldness. But if I have one thing to say, gosh, don't delay, folks. If there's people that you care about and that you love, pick up the phone, go to their house, hug them when you see them, tell them you love them, tell them you care about them, and don't miss those opportunities because, gosh, just stuff happens every day, and don't let it come up and surprise you. So say those things. But you had a wonderful time.
Let me just finish my portion. And as you probably have guessed, not talking is not one of my specialties. I talk a lot. But in all of this, when I am done, I will have fleshed out 10 major deities, 30 minor deities. This is not the limitation in the world. He very explicitly says there are boatloads more in the primer, but this is a start. So 10 major deities, 30 minor deities, something on the order of 60 different orders of religious orders. Some of them are monastic, some of them are itinerant, some of them are militant in interesting ways at times. 60 different new magic items and 60 different spells. Oftentimes they're modified from existing spells, but 60 new and modified spells for which your clerics can have something that, like a cleric Bashir will have certain spells that nobody else can use. And
holy
clerics
cow, I didn't realize you made spells. That's awesome.
Yep. Now I'll admit that some of them sometimes they're not terribly creative. I've seen a number of times where there's a wizard spell that just really should be that particular cleric's available to that particular cleric, sort of like the domain spells of Pathfinder and whatnot. That being said.
My dad never did that, where he took an arcane spell and put it in a clerical sphere. So that never happened. So it's
right. I know. I'm breaking new ground here.
Yeah. You're stealing from the oldest stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense. It makes sense because it's clerics, and it may be a different level. It may have some different flavors to it. It may have some different components, or how it operates, or the length of time that it takes to do. But they're going to have some of the same outcomes desired, right? That are going to be useful for everybody.
I mean, a perfect example is Ray of Frost. Ozum, who is the god of water. I mean, that seems like that of any spell available to a cleric of Ozum should have that most basic of water spells. So Ray of Frost is now an Ozum spell.
Yep, there you go. That makes a lot of sense. So why not? Why not do it? And of course, we welcome people to create new spells and submit them. And heck, maybe we'll make that a section in G20, right? Hey, here's a new magic item or a new spell that was submitted by somebody here. Because really, the best worlds are the worlds that are lived in, and people expand and grow. I mean, gosh, how many people write Star Wars fiction that's not necessarily official? I mean, it's a ton of it, and some of it's pretty darn good, besides the official stuff. Rob, you've done yeoman's work, and I really, really like what you've done, and that's why I wanted to have you here to tell everybody kind of some of the exciting stuff you're doing, and we're gonna parcel out some of that in the magazine. As you can tell, Rob is quite prolific, and he's done quite a lot of development already and is still hammering it out, which is pretty cool. But I would love for some of you guys here in the lounge to give us your questions. Ask things that you want to crack it open. Just turn off your or unmute your microphone and let's have it. If you have any questions, if not, we can keep talking. That's right. No one will ask any questions. I feel like a school teacher. Anyone have any questions? No? Bueller? Okay.
Ivory Wolf just asked a question in the type of question.
Okay. Well, I can't read. Come on, that's like asking way too much for me.
Oh, let me find it.
Oh, here we go. Show the chat.
I was going to say, I can read it for you if you'd like.
What's the very best way to submit ideas?
Submit ideas to y'all.
Of note, he spelled y'all correctly.
He did.
That is, the hyphen is in the right spot.
Yeah, that is correct. As an Army veteran and before Matt became an Air Force guy, he was also Army, so he gets that right. That's right. I was going to say carrier pigeon. Matt, what do you think?
Carrier pigeon does work, and Ivory apparently is retired Air Force. So ha.
Oh.
I was actually going to ask a similar question to that, which what best way to submit ideas, but I saw something a while back. I actually think Matt had posted it, but how do we submit for this gloriousness?
Yeah, so we have two. First of all, anybody can submit anything to gax@gaxworks.com. That's the easiest way to get any content to us, and that distributes to like four. Well, I was gonna say 4 people in the company, but there's like 4 of us. Period. So all 4 of us. And then if you are a GAX Society member, particularly like Platinum and Gold, then you can submit through the form. And if you don't have that form link, I will send that out again here after the show. But there's a form that you can submit directly to us through your GAX Society membership.
So I suggest you make a carrier pigeon at Gaxworks email address to.
It's a great idea. So
CP at gaxworks.com. Not official yet, but we're working on it.
Okay. Yeah, we may roll that out. We'll take that under advisement.
Can you put emojis in email addresses? Because I could put like that emoji pigeon in there.
Emoji pigeon at gaxworks.com. That may be the best one yet. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously my smart aleck comments should be tempered here, or else we're going to end up with additional email addresses generated.
But seriously, the easiest way right now out of the gate, anybody listening, gax@gaxworks.com will get to all of us. If you are a GAX Society member, yeah, we'll have a form for you.
Okay, cool.
Where can I join the GAX Society? I don't even know what that is. I'm curious.
Well, that one's easy. So that's patreon.com/gaxworks. You can join that now for free. There's a free tier. It's the Iron tier that gets you into the Discord with a special moniker in our Discord chat, and you get all the information.
Did I approve that? Free? That doesn't sound like me.
Hey, Luke. So we have a free tier.
Okay.
Just FYI.
I would sign up for that. But as the owner, as like the primary guy here, I'm against that. It should be paid. But no, I'm kidding. Obviously, please join, and the more people we can get good stuff to, and obviously, I mean, clearly it's to our benefit as well. The more people who are involved in what we're doing, you may come up with some great ideas. You may want to share them and get it germinating throughout the group. So it's really a community that we're trying to foster, and we'd love to have you join us.
And just
I do have an announcement to make real quick. The GM Screen giveaway has concluded with a total entry. Actually, it doesn't have the entry count on there. Oh, yeah, it does. With a total entry count of 5, the winner is Mr. Dragonbane. who I know has not been able to get Crown Royal to sponsor him as a GM, but perhaps
Not yet.
Once he shows them the Dungeon Master screen that he's just won, he can get that sponsorship sealed. So yeah,
Go
ahead. Sorry.
I say that may get him over the hump. That may be what you needed.
Yeah. Send me your address information. I'll get that sent out to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm gonna guess you're somewhere in the South. Is that
Kentucky? I am the furthest southern state, as I'm told. I don't know. So
yeah, I think Kentucky counts as the South, right? Is that south of the Mason-Dixon line? Is that?
We're south.
It is technically south of it.
There you go. Okay. All right. It's like,
Hey, Luke, there was a question in chat about Genghis Khan. We're both going, but there's no booth, correct? We're just going to be
no booth. Unfortunately, my children have rebelled, and they said that they need to actually go to school and work on their education as opposed to just following me to various conventions and working the booth. So I've had to. There's been a rebellion, and I had to assign my own Magna Carta of children's rights. So I will not have a booth at Genghis this year. They love going to conventions, but it is a little bit disruptive, and they get behind on their schoolwork. So I'll be there flying solo. No Miriam this year, but Matt will be there, and we can pack some goodies. We'll pack some goodies so that we'll have some giveaways for games that we're doing and some stuff that we can sell. Our friend Elphinius Goo will be there, and I'm sure he'd be willing to assist us, maybe host us for a signing or something like that. So I won't volunteer him for it, but that's a great suggestion. I'll ask that question and see what we can do. Speaking of Elphinius, I am working on a very exciting project with him, and if I were more squared away, I would have the link and have sent it to Matt, so I'll have to share that another time. But we're working on an homage module for 2024, an homage to the village of Hamlet. It's pretty neat. It's called the Tomb of Gygax, and we have put various personages in the village of Etholm, which is an anagram, I think is the correct term, of Hamlet, right? Etholm. And so there's my family there. I'm Lukash Gygax. There's I think not Bushira, but something close to Bushira Gygax, as well as all my daughters are in there. But we have people like Skip Williams, Larry Elmore, Errol Otis, Margaret Weiss, and I think Diesel. Just like a host of people who are known in the real world. Their characters, their personages, their avatars are in the population of Etholm, and of course, part of it has you going to the town of Blun to investigate what's going on in the town of Blun, which is obviously Nulb, and discover what's going on. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun that we're going to have there. Tomb of Gygax. The Kickstarter will be going on. I think we're gonna start that in February. So just look out for that. We'll make sure to blast it out to everybody. There's a sign-up page now with some really cool graphic and video and teasers on there. We're working on it for a while due to some life events. It got pushed into 2024 as opposed to the end of 2023. So, but really looking forward to that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. 2024 is packed with so much stuff. I mean, it's the 50th anniversary. We've got Founders and Legends happening March 16th to 18th, which is old school focus. It's really a time where instead of having thousands of people to worry about, just a couple hundred people to worry about and take care of, and that will afford a little bit more time for me to actually hang out with people and include and guests and really celebrate the foundation of our hobby with a lot of wonderful guests from the 70s and 80s who will be attending, as well as some from 90s, 2000s, and current era as well. And then we'll have a little bit of a couple days gap before we go into GaryCon, and that, as you know, is insane. It's sold out right now. However, Dave Conant and the rest of the events team are furiously reviewing our submissions and calculating the table space. The reason why we govern the number of badges is not based on the fire marshal telling us how many people can fit in there. It's about how many people can sit at the table at any one time and play games. We like to keep that at 80% or higher, so 80% of people can be sitting at a table playing a game, and 20% can be, grabbing a bite to eat, walking the, the vendor hall, or, hang out with their friends doing their own things. And the rest of the events team. Uh-oh. Cassius made it in, but thank you. So I anticipate in the second week of January, we will release some number, whether that's 50 or 300, additional silver badges for GaryCon based on how many events we have, so that we can welcome more people in. But the number one priority for us is to have a friendly convention where people can enjoy themselves and play games, because the focus is on gaming, and really celebrate the life and works of my dad and the hobby that he created. And that encompasses as well all of our creators, in that golden era and beyond. So those are the priorities. So if you got a chance, you want to come to Founders and Legends, it's really going to be a one-time affair. It's just a few hundred people, and we have like 25 guests. If you want to hang out with Ed Greenwood or Zeb Cook or some of these other folks who are on the guest list, that's the place to do it, because there's probably 20 guests to each 20 attendees to each guest. So you'd have to go out of your way to not see some of these guests and not play in their games. So that's a pretty rare opportunity, considering some other conventions, multiple thousands of people, and they have 10 guests or whatever it may be. GaryCon's going to be a ton of fun. Everybody's pulling out all the stops for that one, so going to be a good time. But yeah, so 24, super busy, tons of cool stuff going on. Got lots of projects and 50 years of adventure. I'm collecting essays from notable folks throughout society on how D&D has impacted them, and putting that together in a book for people. Cool shoes that I've been designing with some of my friends like Errol Otis and Tyler Hostetler, or Dungeon Scribe. The setting primer, which I swear we're going to get out in 24. Thank you, Rob and Associates, for going to help me do that heavy lift and get us over there. We got a Shadow Dark conversion for the Oculus Ascend Rabbah, kind of based on Oculus Ascend Rabbah, but it's going to be substantially different because Shadow Dark is a bit different than 5e. If you haven't taken a look at it, I would suggest that you do so. Really some good stuff there. I talked about Zach working on Rogue's Gambit. Mark kind of helping me take another look at the Temple of Darwa and fleshing that tournament module out into more of a campaign style. So there's just a lot of work going on. This thing, Strange and Grim, that we keep looking at, and I've seen some artwork for it, and we're pushing forward on that. So Matt, I'm sure Matt will want to talk about that at one of these a little bit more. Maybe one of these lounges we'll chat about that. But a lot of good stuff going on, and it's going to be a busy year, a great year. You only turn 50 once, for the whole RP genre, and I'm pretty excited about it. But again, I've hate to monopolize the time. I really am here to hear what your questions are, your comments, and have a conversation with you folks who are in this lounge with me. So, does anyone, Tim? I know you've been pretty quiet today. Usually, you have a couple comments.
Well, the Rogue's Gambit, I'm excited about because, I played with you at Gen Con, and you're sweet with that. And
yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Bothug the Clever.
Yeah,
That's just the fine trap spell ever.
Yeah, Bothug is he's a lot of fun.
He is. I mean, that was a fun character.
He's great. Yeah. So everyone enjoys Bothug. I've really, so many people. You think you create a character, a pre-gen, and you're like, okay, and you give a couple lines of maybe what their personality is like, when you hand that to somebody, you never know what you're going to get. There, some people just, it's the various directions that people take, really, really fun. So he's one of the characters I enjoyed greatly, as well as oh geez, oh no, I forgot the Centaur Barbarian's name. Edgerrin Greylock. Greylock, who is nothing like Mr. Ed at all, was a lot of fun. So, but I think Brian really hit that one very well.
Yeah, I think his name is Brian from now on.
Yeah, it's just Brian. Yeah,
Brian from Ireland.
That was the best game.
That was very silly. That was very silly. So it helps if I guess extra bonus points if you are in Vegas and have been out all night drinking when you show up to your 9 a.m. game, 9 a.m. D&D game. So that was very rough. But he lived up to it, and we kept him awake the entire time. So, but what happens in Vegas is supposed to stay in Vegas. I may have just violated the cardinal rule. Whoops.
This
Sorry
just in. There's alcohol in Vegas.
Oh no! Oh my gosh!
Oh, Brian from Ireland. I mean, how many can there? Yeah.
The other thing that'll be exciting is for Gary Con is Joe coming back with the sandal.
Joe will be back.
World travel.
Joe will be back with the sandal. And I mean, not that any of them are guests, but I just take this as testament that Gary Con appeals to a wide range of people, no matter what your background is. His entire gaming group is all returning as well. So they aren't guests. They aren't there to sign autographs or entertain folks. They may do that on their own volition, but they're just there to be attendees in game. But yeah, all those guys decided to come back and continue adventuring. So that's pretty cool. And I take that as a real nod to the entire Gary Con staff, who works very hard to put on a good show.
Yeah, because when I was volunteering, Vince and the show came up and they wanted to go to the West Gate. They didn't know where it was. So, I escorted them down there, and it might have been Vince's first time there because he was pretty blown away about how cool everything was. I go, Vince, we're all gamers, man. We'll help each other out. That's what we do. So doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, it probably my favorite story, and I'm going to tell it. I'm going to tell it here quickly if you guys don't mind. So I was playing in a kind of a second edition game. So it's old school. It's AD&D. We're all playing high level. It's Beyond Barrier Peaks, run by a guy named Andrew Perry. He's run it for decades, so it's really well polished. And it is high stakes. I mean, even though you're like a 13th level character, you're making death saves and on the regular, from various stuff. It is a high powered game. You're in the mix.
And
it's rough.
Oh
yeah, right. You played that one, yeah. There's no like, it's gonna be. No, it's like, pow, in your face. We're going. This is an action movie, and it's opened up with a bang. So we get we're towards the end. It's the end of the thing. We found, this portal that we have to jump through, and essentially we're in a tunnel that's more or less like a mouth or whatever, and it's kind of pushing us forward towards something, swallowing, for lack of a better term. And the thing what's in front of us is a room with a basically an armored personnel carrier, a submersible armored personnel carrier is what it is. It's Beyond Barrier Peaks. It's some sort of technology, and there is 4 robots basically loading it up, being controlled by a mind flayer who's standing on top of this thing with a control pad on his arm. And of course, mind flayers are horrible. I don't know if you guys have actually fought mind flayers. No. They are bad news, right? So we, of course, focus all our energy on the mind flayer. Holy smokes, we get pretty lucky. We take out the mind flayer without too much damage to ourselves. So in this group, I'm lucky enough to, there's some sword players. There's, Mike Merles and Chris Pronowski, the head of Titmouse Studios, does a lot of animation and stuff. Joe Manganello, Nick Manganello, Tom Morello, who's a guitarist from Rage Against the Machine, Paul White, the Big Show, and Vince Vaughn is there, and we're playing. So I went earlier in the initiative. I'm like, okay, great. this thing is swallowing behind us. There's bad news. We're gonna get damaged and kind of pulled into this organic material if we don't run forward. So I'm like, I'm booking it towards this armored personnel carrier because we got to figure out how to get out of here, right? So I'm thinking that's where I gotta go. And a couple other guys are running with me. Tom Morello's a little bit Leroy Jenkins-y or whatever. He's like, hey, those 4 metal golems, the robots, they're still there, right? He's like, yep, they're still there. He's like, I'm going to take out one of my boom fruits, a grenade. He's like, okay, what color? And the DM's like, what color grenade do you want to take out? Or boom fruit. He's like, I'll use a white one. That's a plasma one. That's the maximum damage. It's bad news. I'm a magic user. I have like 35 or 40 hit points, right? This is not a good scene for me. And I've already declared my action. I'm running into exactly where he is throwing it, right? So I'm like, this is it for me, man. I am done. I'm not going to make it. And of course, Paul White is the most serious gamer you can believe. He is mean mugging Tom Morello like you wouldn't believe. But of course, there's no table talk. You can't do table talk in this game. Anything you say is what your character is saying or doing, right? So you have to be kind of serious. But he's mean mugging him. And the next guy up is Vince Vaughn. And Vince said, hey, Wall of Force, you can shape Wall of Force, right? And the DM's like, yes, you absolutely can. I was like, oh, okay, somebody knows their spells pretty well here. And what proceeds after that is about a 10-minute conversation in front of the map, or the screen that they had the map on, where he's talking about shaping this like a parabola and how to angle it to get the blast away from it. And so he dices it, he rolls like a 16 on the die. He's like, okay, good enough, you shaped it well enough. It absorbs the blast. All of us who ran into the kill zone are saved, and that was it. So that's my story of Vince Vaughn saving our adventure. And that dude, he doesn't just show up. He actually studied his sheet. He knew his spells, and he may have taken a break of a number of years of playing, but clearly it's not something like a new hobby that he just picked up. He knew that pretty well. So great story, and I look forward to a game with these guys again. There's good players and a lot of fun. But that's, I think we have similar. All of us, I think, part of what's cool is that all of us probably have a story like that about one of our buddies in our gaming group, right?
Oh, yeah.
Who did something similar. I think that's the thread that kind of sews it all together, is that we can all relate to that story because we've had a story like that, right? And it's just cool or notable because that's just a guy that we've seen in movies as well. Well, he's also a gamer. And I think that's just a neat thing, right? Yeah. And the gaming does so much for us. So, thank you for putting up with my gamer story about because I've heard a lot of gamer stories, right? Let me tell you about my character. Some of them are great though.
Got away with.
Yeah, I tell you what, some of them are awesome. I really love hearing a lot of stories. Especially the cool parts about what D&D did for somebody, or how it changed their life. I think that's the kind of the transformative power of role-playing games is really a neat topic, and it doesn't discriminate people from all walks of life. It has helped, or it has indeed helped focus them towards a particular pathway through life. Yeah. Which is pretty cool. I mean, not too many games can say that. So
like my epic D2 fail I told you about.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, well, I have run a little long. I was supposed to do half an hour, and I'm running closer to an hour. But before I wrap it up, I would like to just open it up for one last question. If anybody has a question, I don't want to be accused of not taking questions. If there's anybody in the lounge who has a question for me, or Rob, or even Matt. Even Matt.
How's it going with Spotted Cow this year?
You know what? Spotted Cow, those guys, they there's no love. There's no love for. They've continued to ghost me. I feel very rejected. It's a good thing that I have a lot of resiliency. They've taken some resiliency training because I feel like they just aren't paying attention to me. I am talking to a brewery in Milwaukee who has threatened to make some custom Gary Con beer for us. So if I can make that work with the hotel where we can deliver that in. There may be a special Gary Con brew. And in fact, is there any requests for a special Gary Con brew? What flavor of beer should we go for it? I think it was called But no!
God.
No.
What is wrong with you?
Yes. No, that's awful.
I'm sorry. I live 20 minutes from John Johnson. I can't.
Okay, all right. That's the John Johnson. You're within the area of effect of John Johnsonness. I understand.
You did make chat up on that comment.
I got one.
Malort. No Malort.
I got one for him.
All right, what is it?
I've never had a brewery ever put too many IBUs in an IPA. So there's my gauntlet. Make me think something put too many IBUs in an IPA.
That one's probably not a crowd pleaser. Now, I happen to like bitter IPAs. So
there's a beer out there called Hop Stupid.
Oh, it's quite nice. I like it a lot.
Yeah, the best one that I had was by Green Flash. I think it was just called Green Flash IPA. They're out of business unfortunately now, but it gave you a pucker factor. It was a very grapefruity IPA. It tasted like you were biting into a grapefruit, pretty much. So
plenty of the elder and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I used to work in a package store. I'm the beer guy. But yeah, Hop Stupid. The IBU said it's above 75. What do you care?
The highest IBU that I'm aware that I've had is 140 something.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was a little too sweet for me. That particular one was an imperial one. And so they had put a lot extra alcohol in it. And I'm not necessarily wanting high alcohol stuff at my age. Alcohol hits me harder than it ever did. But yeah, it was a little sweet. I've laid down this challenge to brewers I know, and some people have tried, and some people have been sure they've gotten it. I mean, like, that's nice. I like what you did with the Cascade and the, But I will say this, as Luke pointed out, I am not the normal crowd for tastes.
No. So
I'm a weird dude.
Yeah.
Sorry
So.
to cut you off.
Oh no, that's totally fine. The Spotted Cow is a farm ale, I think, or something like that. It's a style of beer. Farmhouse, thank you, farmhouse ale.
It's a little cloudy, so it's almost like a wheat, so it's got sweetness to it.
Exactly. So I probably want to find something a little bit more central. I may go with like just a Pilsner or a lager or something that's very drinkable. That's going to be very drinkable for most people because I don't want to, because part of the deal at GaryCon is we have happy hour. So on Friday and Saturday, from 5:30 to 7:30, you can have free beer if you buy the $20 Stadium Cup, right? And of course, all convention long, it gives you like discounted beer for any time you want to drink Spotted Cow, right? It's Spotted Cow discounts. So whatever I substitute that with needs to have a wide appeal, or else I'll feel like I'm doing a disservice to people, right? I don't want that. I don't want to do that to people.
No, that's fair. I just,
Yeah.
I can hope. Laying down the gauntlet for every brewery out there that's watching this particular episode.
Okay.
Here's the gauntlet.
You got it. Well, West Coast IPA, the Green Flash West Coast IPA was 95 international bitterness units. So I thought that was
tasty
pretty
too.
good. Yeah, that was pretty good. It was very grapefruity. So, all right. So now that we've finished up the IPA portion of Luke's Lounge,
my job's done here.
That's right. But today I was drinking Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze IPA, which is much more fruity, not that bitter, but it's pretty nice. It's very drinkable.
Yeah, I can do a hazy IPA, but man, I sneeze for 30 minutes if I get a real too IBU-ish.
All right. That may be something we'll have to work into. One of the gods maybe likes really bitter brews. That may have to be something we'll have to. Maybe it'll be like
I've got my marching orders.
There you go. As I say, maybe is it a luck deity? Is it something? It's like bad luck. It's for bitter. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just somebody who has like just kind of a nasty god of like the Grinch would worship this god or something. That's why they're drinking these bitter stuff.
One of the affiliate deities for Thothamon.
There you go. So yeah, that could totally work because I have there's the 7 major gods, and they're generally on the good side. I mean, loosely, at least neutral and good. Benevolent. They're benevolent. And then there's the triad, the 3 who are definitely less savory, to say the least. So, so there you go. You have 7 is a holy number. 3 is kind of like not a good number for your numerologists out there in the world of Okram. And the calendar is kind of built around 7 and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's all in the primer. It's in the primer. If you were part of the Kickstarter, you're probably familiar with that. And if not, it'll be forthcoming, and maybe we'll put that out in G20 magazine just to give people a bit of just kind of get some of that info out so that those folks who weren't able to back the Kickstarter can at least kind of have that for their game and start fleshing that out and generating ideas and contributing, because I certainly welcome folks' ideas and collaborating. I really enjoy that about gaming. For me, swear it's the last thing we say. Working by myself is okay, it can be done, but I really, really enjoy the back and forth of bouncing ideas off of somebody and kind of collaboratively generating, what the storyline is and how to go about it. And I guess that's what you get when you were raised gaming, right? Because in role-playing gaming, isn't it all about what we come up with as a team and how we're going to overcome something as opposed to the individual work? So that's really been kind of hardwired into who I am, and that's the way I like to write. I very rarely, if ever, write anything on my own. I like to collaborate with people and say, hey, how about, what do you think? And let's go forward that way. So maybe that's a look at how gaming has shaped me as from a kid on upward. So I've been gaming since I was 4 years old.
We've been writing stories in our gamers. And who didn't walk down Stark Street when they were a kid and saw a wall and said, you know what, if I was a 5th level thief, I'd climb up that.
I absolutely have done stuff like that for sure. Now, I may have even tried to do that and realized I'm not a thief in real life, so I'm not very good. Well, thank you everybody for joining me. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you. I went a little bit closer to an hour. I'm liable to do that sometimes, but it was a great joy. That's okay. I like it. But all right, we're gonna sign off. Thank you, Rob, for being here. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Matt, for doing all the crazy tech stuff, the tech magic, the wizardry that made this show up for everybody. I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next month.
Happy New Year.
Next month.
Yeah,
all right.
Sure. Yeah.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Take care.
Happy New Year, Kelly.